The night was supposed to be ordinary, filled with the soft hum of city lights streaming through the penthouse windows. Instead, it became the night Olivia's world collapsed. At 7 months pregnant, her hands trembling over her swollen belly, she stared in disbelief at the papers sprawled across the marble table. Divorce papers. Cold, clean signatures that ended years of promises. Her husband, Nathaniel King, the handsome, ambitious CEO adored by the business world, had not only abandoned her, but replaced her. And not with a model, not with a socialite, but with their nanny. A woman who had once sung lullabies in their home now stood in her place, smiling with a ring that had belonged to Olivia. The betrayal seared through her like 1,000 blades. Before we go further, if you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the power of truth rising above betrayal, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe to Royal Stories. Your support helps us bring more stories of resilience and hope to life. Olivia had grown up in the shadows, never knowing her real parents, raised in foster homes where kindness was scarce. She had thought marrying Nathaniel was the start of her fairy tale, a man who had swept her from modest beginnings into a life of luxury, with love she believed was eternal. But as her belly grew, his affection thinned, his excuses piled up, and his absences turned into secrets. By the time the truth emerged, it was too late. He told her coldly that she was no longer what he wanted, that the nanny understood him better, that she was a burden. In the weeks after his departure, Olivia was left alone in a house that no longer felt like hers. The servants treated her with pitying eyes, the newspapers whispered about the CEO's scandalous love affair, and the city looked at her as a discarded wife. Yet in the silence of her despair, something within her began to shift. She had a child growing inside her, a child she refused to let be born into shame. Her tears gave way to determination. She sold her jewelry, left the cold penthouse behind, and moved into a small apartment by the sea. The waves became her comfort, the salty wind her ally, as she stitched together a life from pieces she thought she had lost forever. But fate had not forgotten Olivia. One afternoon, while she walked through a small Italian-inspired market, her delicate features caught the eye of an older woman, Duchess Isabella Romano, matriarch of the Romano fashion empire. The woman stopped in her tracks, staring as though she had seen a ghost. Olivia was bewildered, but the Duchess's trembling words revealed a secret buried for decades. Olivia was her long-lost granddaughter, stolen from her daughter at birth. Shock turned into disbelief, disbelief into tears, as Olivia learned she was heir to one of Italy's most powerful families, tied by blood to an empire of elegance and influence. Her life transformed almost overnight. The once discarded wife now stood in silk halls, embraced by family she never knew existed. The Romano Empire, famous for its timeless designs and luxury runways, welcomed her not as an outsider but as their future. Yet Olivia did not let wealth or status erase her pain. She poured herself into building charities for abandoned mothers, designing maternity wear that gave dignity to women in their most vulnerable months, and raising her child with love untainted by betrayal. She chose not to harden her heart, but to become the woman she wished she had seen when she was lost. Meanwhile, Nathaniel's world began to crumble. His marriage to the nanny turned into public scandal, investors pulled out of his company, and whispers of fraud spread across boardrooms. He saw Olivia on magazine covers, not as his ex-wife but as the radiant heiress who had risen from ashes. He realized too late that the woman he had cast aside was far more powerful than he had ever imagined, not because of her title, but because of her strength. The sight of her at galas, standing tall in her grace, burned him with regret. Yet Olivia no longer looked at him with longing. She looked through him, as though he were a chapter closed, a lesson learned. When her daughter was born, Olivia named her Isabella Grace, after the grandmother who had restored her identity and after the grace that had carried her through storms. In that moment, with her baby's tiny fingers curled around her own, Olivia knew she had found her true home. Not in a man's arms, not in wealth or status, but in her resilience, her family, and the love she chose to give. Viewers, if this story touched your heart, if Olivia's journey from betrayal to belonging stirred something deep within you, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Royal Stories. Your support keeps these tales of hope alive, and your comments remind us that stories can heal as much as they can inspire. And now, a special request. Comment below with the words, "Strength rises from the ashes," if you believe that no betrayal can ever destroy the light of a true heart.